The Celtics Talk podcast is presented by 24autogroup.com, 11 locations across New England.
What's up, everybody? Off-day edition of the Celtics Talk podcast. We're slowly creeping up on the quarter mark of the NBA season. So how are we feeling about these Celtics, who have been pretty good, but have had some speed bumps in the road? Called up my buddy Cerrone Battle from 98.5 The Sports Hub. You see him on our programming to talk about the state of the Celtics. And we took a little bit of a dive into the IST as well. A lot of passionate reactions after the Celtics win last night in advance to the knockout stage. Is the IST good for basketball? I sure think so. But does everybody else feel that way? So let's get right into it. Here's our chat with Cerrone. All right, Cerrone. 18 games in to the quest for Banner 18. Celtics own the best record in basketball. They're on to the knockout round of the IST. We're going to get into that later because we got some hot takes on the IST. They're on pace for 64 wins, are undefeated at home, which feels like something because they were so bad there during the playoffs. And next week they'll hit the quarter mark of the season. So I kind of wanted to take a temperature check of where we're at. Before we even dive into everything, let me just get your 10,000-foot view. How are you feeling about the Boston Celtics as we near that quarter mark of the 23-24 season?
I'm very optimistic about this team. You know, we knew on paper that this team could possibly be a very special team. And as time has gone on and you notice them gelling a little more continuity with the bench and everything else. And they're looking like this is legit title contenders, legit championship level team. And I'm kind of not blown away by it, but it's refreshing to see because we had high hopes for this team for years, and we're looking at them differently. Like, wait a minute now, there's something to this. Like you said, winning at home, winning games that, you know, we like, man, this is a big game against the Bucks. This is trap game, stuff like that. And they're winning a majority of these games where they were losing in the past. But I think as a team, the way they're playing together as a team, the way they're sharing the ball, their pace, their flow, just starting to know where guys are at. Guys are in and out with some injuries. Derek White's missed some time, childbirth, and Holiday's missed time, Porzingis, and they still keep rolling. And it's real refreshing to see, man. And this is a real special team. So I'm really excited to see what's going to go on in the future. Yeah,
I'm going to preface all my gushing that I will do over the next probably half hour with a slight like temper, right? They were 21-5 last year. If we had done this podcast 1 year ago today, we probably would have been pretty bullish about where they stand. A lot of the things I'm excited about are probably the same things that I overreacted to a year ago. So there's still strides to be made. But I'm with you. Like, I just thought there would be, you know, Brad Stevens, when we sat down on Media Day, said it might take this team some time to figure it out, right? Like new pieces, like we saw early in the year, Jalen was still kind of learning his role. And you poke your head up here, and even though there's been a lot of consternation about, you know, the Orlando loss and how bad that Charlotte loss was, it's a whole lot more good than bad. And that's why I got 5 questions for you that we're gonna kind of take temperature on this team. And I'll start here. Like, what is the most encouraging thing about this start of the season? What's got you most excited about where this team could potentially get to?
We knew Tatum, Brown, Porzingis were good. We knew they were elite special players, and we were worried about them playing together. Well, with the addition of Porzingis, and that to me, he's fit right in. That's a big thing for me. But the guards, man, it's Derek White, it's Holiday, both ends. It's them getting
Stock
after
exchange,
it.
baby.
Yes, man. It's just they're elite, man. That's a great defensive backcourt. Offensively, their pace, their rhythm, they're finding their spots, moving without the ball. You know, playing off the superstars, playing with the role play with the bench guys. And that, to me, is the most encouraging and most promising thing is the other guys. Al Horford, to me, has been fantastic as well. So the others around the superstars playing their role instead of watching those guys get 100 every night combined, they're filling in and playing their role in carrying this team during major stretches. So that's the most encouraging and promising thing to me.
Yeah, I'm with you. So, like, my question was, like, would that starting unit find immediate chemistry? And, you know, could Drew take a big drop in usage rate that we've seen? Could Kristaps and Jalen balance the, you know, shots that you get? Like, it's one thing to be wilding out and with the Wizards, and it's another to be here in Boston and have to share shots with 2 other All-NBA guys. And so I just wondered how that balance would go. 38 lineups have played 75 minutes together this season. The Seas have a plus 27 net rating with that starting group. That is the best in the NBA. The next closest is Philadelphia, which, good way to set up Friday's matchup. They're plus 23.4. Right now, the Celtics their starting five is playing at a level. And I know we haven't seen a whole lot of them because of injuries, because of childbirth, because of all these things. But the chunks we have seen have just been really, really encouraging. And, as you said, the bench has started to make some strides that made me, when I was worried about them being able to hold those leads, seems to be like that's been a little bit eased in terms of my concern there. And I go back to it. I think we talk a lot about depth and we obsess about the backup quarterbacks and all that. But end of the day, it's your starting five that decides whether you make the ultimate goal of winning an NBA title. It's your superstars that carry you. And so sometimes I get lost and I'm like, I obsess about Peyton Pritchard and Sam Hauser, and they're super important. But man, it comes down to Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Derek White, like all those guys doing their thing. And that first group has been really, really good. Again, I'll throw it out there. Like they were really, really good. The starters were really, really good at the start of last year. Then they hit some bumps in the road. We have seen some offensive regression, but I think once they're healthy, we can be really excited about where they go with it. Let's flip it. What's got you most concerned through the early part of the season? Are you worried about, like what gnaws at you when you think about this team?
The only thing, and I mean, it's he gets a little pushback on social media as usual, but the only concern is when they have these stretches where they just get 2 3-point happy, especially when Porzingis is there. And it was just stretches and been moments where they've taken 50 plus threes or 40 plus threes, whatever, it's like 43 a game or something like that. It's the moments where Porzingis has the mismatch, and it's not the whole game. It's not long stretches. It's just times where Porzingis dumps in the lane and he's got the mismatch, and they kill whatever they're doing and just throw it down to him. And I love that. And I think they just get caught in moments where they get an offensive rebound, miss 3, offensive rebound, kick it back out again, and they miss 3, 4, 5, 6 in a row. And you're like, man, you got this big 7-footer down there that's a bucket in the paint. You got Tatum, who's been fantastic inside the 3-point line as well, down there getting buckets using his size. And I just think I would like to see more of that. I would like to see more Derek White and Holiday down low, other guys that are great in the paint. And I just think when a playoff series, when things get a little tighter, will they lose some of those bad habits and go to let's use our size, let's use our dominance, get to the foul line, something they've been doing this year, getting a lot of points in the paint. And I think if they do that and make that a habit, I think you're looking at a 60-plus win team here easily.
As soon as you started mentioning 3-pointers, I was waiting for Joe Mazzulla to come bombing into this podcast and scream at us about obsessing about 3-pointers. I always worry now if I even bring it up that he might come to my house and knock on my door. But I get it. I will say in Joe's defense, I think that their offense has been so much more diversified this year. They're totally taking more advantage of that, and it hasn't always bore fruit. Like sometimes you throw it in the post and it doesn't work or whatever. But like you said, when Porzingis is out there, especially, you got to take advantage of those opportunities. You got to make it easier on yourself. There's just nights where, and we know it in the playoffs, it's not going to look as good as it did against the Chicago Bulls, who give up a billion threes and who let you have wide open looks. It's really encouraging when the team sort of knows it and makes an effort. It also like early post-ups, right? Like it's one thing to be looking at the clock with 6 seconds left and now you're scrambling and you're trying to throw it in. When they go early clock and get the ball to the right spots, it's been really good to watch. I just want them to continue to focus on that. And I think you nailed, my biggest concern, and fair or not to Jaylen, there was that screenshot, and for me anyway, of the Charlotte game in overtime where he pulls up for 3 and Porzingis is wide open in the lane. And you're thinking, what are we doing here? Like, you got to make that pass. Yeah. I'll give Jaylen a little bit of an out. This team is obsessed with 2-for-1s, another Joe thing. And they sometimes when there's 35 on the clock, they just think like, oh, we got to shoot this so we get another possession. That wasn't the right opportunity, right? Like they should have been throwing that ball in. You see too many times teams work for a better shot. And so I'm with you. Like they got to take advantage of those opportunities. They got to be more aware of it. And I think Joe in that Memphis game when he benched the starters was trying to make that point. Like you guys got to be focused here. And when you're not, it becomes an issue. So other than that, it's just the bad habits, like the offense grinding a little bit late in games. I still want to see that over a longer sample and feel better about that. But look, the IST game against the Bulls last night showed it. Like when they're committed, when they are focused on actually having to keep the lead, they don't have to fall into those ruts. Yeah. I want this team to more often keep that foot on the gas and not let off of it because man, it's maddening sometimes. All right. Question number 3. What player has most exceeded your expectations? And like, it's funny, like a bunch of different names popped into my mind here. I'm eager to see where you go with this one.
Oh man, Derek White, man. This dude,
Ooh.
Derek White, we saw the way he came on second half of last season, his playoff run. It was like, man, this dude's good. He's really stepping up. He's becoming a key factor for them. Derek White, man, he's finding his way with this team of what we consider today a super team or whatever, 3 All-Stars and 4 All-Stars, technically 5 if you include Al, who's been there before. He's finding his way in this. Like, wait a minute, guys, look, I'm here too. And he's doing it on both ends. I mean, he's getting buckets. It almost looks automatic. It's almost look like you're shocked when he misses because he's taking good shots, timely shots. He's finding his rhythm, his pace on fast breaks, the way he finishes around the basket. It looks like a guaranteed bucket every time. And for Derek White to come in and assert himself in this lineup of superstars to the point where they trust him, they look for him, I think is huge for this team and is going to be a key player if they come out on top at the end.
It's so funny. I wrote an article probably right before the Porzingis trade, and I was sort of thinking about it and just how good Derek White was in the playoffs and Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals, sort of cementing it. And I was like, is he the third best player on the team? Like we obsess about where people rank in the hierarchy and stuff like that. But I'm like, he could be legitimate third superstar. Well, then the Celtics trade for Porzingis. They had Drew Holiday. And I'm like, all right, maybe Derek White's the 5th best player on your team. But I kind of like want to stand firm on it. Like, as good as Porzingis is, as good as Drew Holiday is, and they're all super impactful in different ways. To me, like, when you look at the numbers, Derek just makes so many good things happen, from the team's best assist percentage when he's on the floor to, knowing when he needs to be what the game needs, right? Like the Miami game, they needed him to score, so he goes and does it. And sometimes he just needs to be a facilitator. Sometimes he's like, all he does is do the crazy tipping in Miami, right? Like, he's just so good at identifying what the game needs. And when you have super teams, you need somebody like that. So I'm with you there. Like, Derek's been awesome. I probably had crazy high expectations for him, and yet you're right. Like, he's only lived up to or exceeded that. The one guy I go back to is Sam Hauser. And I know the Celtics were sort of desperate for a bench guy to really sort of cement that role, and him and Peyton struggling out of the gates, and we're like, man, are they going to be able to go beyond 6? Like, who's 7, 8, 9 on this team? No Grant Williams anymore. No like depth options that have really cemented themselves. Credit to both Pritchard, Crypto P, and Slam Hauser here have become quite the tag team. Hauser is 8th among high volume 3-point shooters. Guys with over 100 attempts this season. He's 8th in 3-point percentage. The 2 guys in front of him, Steph Curry and Duncan Robinson. And so, like, I'm not ready to go there. Someone on the internet keeps calling him, like, he's saying that and I wish I could remember. Maybe it's my guy Wayne Spoon. He keeps saying that that Hauser is morphed into modern day Kyle Korver. And like, it's so right. Like, he just moves, he shoots, he's got that big frame. Defense will always be something that people harp on, but I think he's been very good in isolation. The Bucks kind of took advantage of him a little bit, but outside of that, like, I think he's held up well. The numbers bear out that he's been pretty good. How are you feeling about Sam? I mean, like, when he threw down that putback jam last night, I was like, oh my God, like, what is going on? Like, the evolution of Sam Hauser has been fun to watch. Slam Hauser is everywhere.
Look, I think I give him credit because he's gone from being a specialist to a basketball player. And I think, he gets a knock on his defense, on his defensive rating and stuff, but he moves his feet because people challenge him a lot. And he moves his feet and forces guys to give the ball up because he's bigger than I think people realize. But I think he's turned into a basketball player and not just a 3-point specialist. That's his expertise there. But I think he's doing so many other things, and it's making the bench better. And again, that trust factor. Everybody trusts him to get open, to take those shots. And the way he crashes the glass, man, we seen last night, it's like, hey, there's more to this guy than just being a spot-up guy in the corner. And I didn't see that coming. I didn't expect that. And big for him for improving that during the offseason. So I think that's a huge plus for this team.
3 dunks in his NBA career over his first 2 seasons, 5 in his first 18 games, including a alley-oop from Jaylen Brown and that putback jam last night. Slam Hauser showing off the hops in unexpected ways. All right, we dipped our toe into the Joe Mazzulla conversation. Now I want to take the full dive. I was interested to see, like, obviously the Celtics have been off to a good start. I wanted to take your temperature on on Joe and the job he's done this year. I did want to look. Our friends over at Fanatic Sportsbook, their Coach of the Year odds. I kind of wondered where Joe would figure in here. I actually thought he would be a little bit higher. I was surprised to see. Here are the coaches that are in front of him. Mark Daigneault with the Thunder. Lemonster, love you guys. Stand up, take a bow. Plus 500. Jamal Mosley in Orlando, plus 550. Ime Udoka, old friend, down in Houston, plus 600. Chris Finch up in Minnesota, plus 650. Phillies Nick Nurse, plus 900. Indy's Rick Carlisle at plus 1,000. And then we finally get to Joe Mazzulla. So also at plus 1,000. One, are you surprised as me that he's kind of that low, considering the Celtics might end up being the best record in basketball, or at least they're on pace to do that? And two, what have you just thought of Joe's job overall this year? There was a lot of pressure on him coming into the year, a lot of spotlight, especially after adding Sam Cassell and Charles Lee. How are we feeling about the job that Joe has done to this point?
Well, first of all, for him being that low, I think there's this early in the season, they're showing a lot of love to the teams that weren't expected to do much. You see Oklahoma City, Orlando, and every year, November, December, you have these teams that are like, look at us, and they play at a playoff level early on to kind of get attention and show us. But the only problem is, as time goes on, they don't have another level to go to. So I think as the season goes, Mazzulla's going to climb that ladder of Coach of the Year, because it's going to end up one of the best records in the league. And, I got to give him his credit. He was able to be a leader of men. He's got these guys playing together. He's got the egos put to the side. He's got these guys believing in each other, and all the way down to the bench. They're showing so much emotion for each other on the sideline. He said Hauser gets the putback. Everyone goes crazy. And I think that starts with the head coach. He fights for his guys. He speaks for them. He protects them. And I think they love that and play for him on the other end. Like I said, my thing with this is only the 3-point shooting. But outside of that, the team is playing for him. They're playing hard. They're playing as a unit. They all feel for each other. There's no ego, seems like, on this team. And I got to give him a lot of credit for that, and embracing change with his roster and playing into guys' strengths and weaknesses. So I got to give Mazzulla a big credit for that.
I wondered how it would go. I thought there would be like a real spotlight, like if they stumbled out of the gates, and I didn't think they would be overreactionary. They certainly weren't last year. They certainly weren't in the playoffs. And, he had his missteps with personnel, his missteps. We can sit here and quibble about timeouts. He's just sort of doubled down on that this year. And the 3-point shooting, like we can play. Like, he's obsessed with 4 factors and, really puts an emphasis on having more shots and all this. But that's just the way he is. And I always give people credit for when they stick to who they are. Like, I go on shows and I'm a nerd. Like, you're just gonna have to deal with it. That's who I am. I can't be someone else. I'm gonna stumble on my words. I'm gonna say stupid stuff. You're just gonna have to deal with me. And I like that Joe has sort of been like, this is how I coach. This is what I believe in. And even if the guy with glasses on the TV is screaming about it, like how much it doesn't work, like, he's gonna stick to who he is. I do think he's won over, as you pointed out, like, little things that he does to support his stars. Last night against Chicago, Jaylen Brown gets whistled for a foul, turns to the bench and says, like, I didn't hit him. I didn't get him in the head. And Joe, that's not a great use of a challenge, because Jaylen wasn't in foul trouble. You could have needed it along the way to just, turn a momentum or whatever. And but like, he wanted to, like, Jaylen was so emphatic about it, and they wanted to protect Jaylen from a block there, and so they used it. And I think, if you're a superstar, you're like, all right, my coach is looking out for me. He's like finding little ways to show that he cares. And I mean, the biggest one of all is Celtics had clearly made a determination last night that they wanted to go for it in the IST, that they wanted to run up the score a little bit. And Billy Donovan is sitting there crying at half court about how, like, they're going hack a Drummond. And Joe just kind of walks over, and you can tell, like, Joe is very human. He doesn't want to do that. But this is the way it's been structured. And I think his players have got to love that if I'm, especially Luke Cornett and Sam Hauser, and we've heard Luke say how he wants to pay off his mortgage, like, interest rates are crazy. I'm loving Joe Mazzulla out there doing these things and trying to get us to win the point differential. I know it sounds silly because it's like, it's so outside the basic scope. And like, I think Joe's still got to, like, grow and evolve, but man, like, those things matter. And I think when you have buy-in in the locker room, especially with a team that's as talented as this, that's huge. The one stat I'll throw out there, and the Celtics tweeted this last night, Joe's now coached 100 games, 71-29. The 7-10 winning percentage is the highest among any NBA coach ever through their first 100. which
amazing.
like, I mean, you think about like how
incredible.
good the Celtics teams of the 50s and 60s were. Like, it's absurd that he's even like near the top of that list. Now, most coaches take over a rebuilding program and gotta like scrap a little bit and then they win. Joe had the luxury of taking over a pretty good team, but it's still 71-29.
That's
It's pretty damn
impressive,
good.
man. I mean, I would think someone like Phil Jackson, who took over Shaq and Kobe, or
Right.
or took over Jordan and Pippen in 1989, 90, whatever it was. I just figured they were running off 60 wins a season when he took over, but that's pretty impressive.
Man, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's like, and shout out to Joe again. Like, he could have been looking over his shoulder.
Mhm.
I suspect that having Charles Lee and Sam Cassell has been quite helpful. We've seen the returns on that with Jason being more willing to go in the post because of Sam and Charles Lee having the relationship. And I think Charles Lee was one of the guys who kind of huddled that group before when they were making the decision about the bench. And so I really like where they're at from a coaching perspective. And Joe's got to continue to be himself. And I'll continue to complain on the nights it doesn't fit my narrative, but he'll continue to not care, and he'll just go watch the town and tell me to quiet down. Powered by Fanatic Sportsbooks, where you can earn up to 5% fan cash on your bets. Those Coach of the Year odds are still kind of wild to me. I think they'll evolve along the way.
Look no further than the award-winning 24 Auto Group. With over 2,600 vehicles in stock, the brands you love, backed by the savings and service you can count on. Visit today or shop online at 24autogroup.com.
All right, question number 5. And then this is the December 15th has always been the date I've circled in terms of like that's when the real roster movement can start. All the guys you signed in the offseason become trade eligible. Some of the guys that maybe aren't playing, the Svi Mihailuk's, the Lamar Stevens. I'm not saying they're going to trade these guys because I think they like the depth they've got. But if you wanted to start bundling some contracts and try to get to an addition, you can do that. You also have the Grant Williams traded player exception sitting there from the summer. If you're Brad, what's your move? What do you like? What are you eyeing around the league? You know, I know a lot of Celtics fans last night were looking at Caruso because like the situation in Chicago is volatile. Yeah. They're going to probably move some players along the way. Is there any sort of player type you're looking at? A player that you think would fit well here? Is there a Sam Cassell, a PJ Brown, I'm trying to think of like the James Posies of the world. Now some of those were not trades, but like, you know, what does this super team need to really keep it going and get to that next level?
You know, it's weird. I didn't think of the Caruso thing, but I think a guy like him absolutely would get you over the top. Yeah. Just another defender off the bench or another wing, another team guy can stretch the floor, but you know he's going to scrap every night. But I think nothing specific, but just more talent, man. The more talent you can have, the better. And I would like to see some veteran talent. You know, it was really weird. They played the Charlotte last week, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, you know what this team could use now? A Gordon Hayward type player. But it's like, you know, he makes $100 million again or whatever. So I know the salary stuff is a mess. But a veteran like that, a guy that's gotten buckets in the past, but that'd be willing to play a role on a championship team that'll come in and give you a few minutes a night that can get hot from here or there. I think a good veteran role player would be much needed for this team. I'm not so much looking for a center or a guard or anything like that. I just think it's a little more veteran help off that bench that can steady things when things get a little rocky. And I think a player like that would fit in. But I do like the Caruso idea. I'm interested in that one.
Yeah, I'll admit when Daniel Tice got bought out in Indiana and ended up in LA, like a little part of me was like, I thought for sure that was going to be the move, that like the Pacers would eventually move on and that Tice would want to come back here, familiarity with the system. But undeniable, like there's a huge opportunity in LA. That team should be okay, but like probably won't be because it's a hot mess. But at least Daniel Tice will play and probably earn his way to his next contract. And yet, like now I'm still stuck looking around the league wondering if there's another center out there that makes sense. I do probably err on the side of what you're saying. You probably have to prioritize talent. And I would put a high emphasis on veteran talent, guys that have maybe been in the playoffs, because you know, it's a real luxury when you have a PJ Brown who can go out there and tip a game and you know, just, you know, is the right fit and knows that his role. I kind of hold out hope that Blake Griffin will get sick of golfing or doing whatever he's doing right now, and maybe he's the easier fix to add some depth to your bench down the road. But you know, I think the fact that he's remained this idle says that maybe his body just won't allow him to do it anymore. But I wonder if there's a big out there, and I know that's sort of the low hanging fruit because the Celtics have 37-year-old Al and Kristaps' injury history. Luke has been better in recent games, and yet like he misses some of those defensive rebounds, and I want to throw my remote through the TV. But other than that, like I feel like they're in a good spot, and you're not going to play 10 guys in the playoffs. I think they've got I know they got 7 or 8. Depending on how much Peyton plays in the playoffs, and like I think Sam can be in there if he holds up defensively. But I would love just one more body, maybe, and that's why I probably err on the side of big man. But like, if you're telling me you could go get a high level wing, to go back to the Caruso player type, someone who can score, but like, his bread and butter is just to come in and be solid defensively and allow Jason and Jalen to get more shots. I could be down with that. It's just, there's going to be a lot of competition for those players this year. I think they're, like you said, this early in the year when the Magic look good, when, Indy's feeling good, everyone's going to be kind of looking for a little bit of an upgrade, and it's going to crowd the market. And Celtics don't exactly have a ton of assets, except they do still have a lot of their picks. But you how much do you mortgage moving forward to get a 9th or 10th man? That'll be the balance that Brad Stevens has to strike. I do want to circle back to the IST. It's the buzz of the land. A lot of hot takes coming out about it. People in my Twitter mentions are very angry about the IST and are very mad that I'm excited about it. Where do you come down? Like I last night won me over. Like I was.
Oh, it did.
Right?
It was like I said in the email chain, man. It was a coming out party for it.
Yeah.
It was here. We've been watching it. But I think when you all seen it, we all saw it come full circle last night, even in the Kings game after the Celtics, everybody was glued to it. How's this gonna work out? And it was exciting. I mean, I've never seen people just get this much buzz over NBA games in November. And it was the Celtic thing, and then watching that play out, and then keeping track of the Nets game. And then I go to the Western Conference, and it was like, okay, the Warriors got to win by 12.
Yeah.
Okay, they're up 24 points now. Like, oh, they are in. I go to bed and wake up. The Warriors blew it. The Kings are in. I'm like, oh, snap. But then I look up, and I look at the star power of this thing. It's like you got LeBron, you got AD, Booker, Tatum, Brown, Giannis. All these stars, Dame, are going to be battling out for this. And there's no way this is a bad thing for the league. I don't see how people see this as bad TV or not entertaining or just a bad product. I think it was excellent, and I think it's here to stay.
The people that are crying over the point differential, like I get it, and I know but like this is the same way I roll my eyes every time I hear someone talking about the unwritten rules of baseball and not stealing bases when you're up. Like, give me a break. Like everyone knew the parameters of this thing. Everyone, like I understand, like Billy Donovan, if you don't get it because your team went 0-4 in group play and was like a -60, yeah, you probably weren't sweating point differential, and you probably didn't know a whole lot about how important it was. But like if you don't like the fact that we're going hack-a-Drummond, then 2 options. 1, don't be down 30 points. Or 2, take Andre Drummond off the court, which he eventually did.
I think what would happen too, as well, is I think the players not understanding early on was a part of this.
Yeah.
But if the Bulls and everybody else knows next season that the point differential matters, you're going to see the end of games played a little harder now, so you don't end up in a situation like the Bulls. Like, you know what? We're losing, but let's try and get a few layups here at the end. That way, when it comes down to it, we're not either getting smoked by 30 at the end or we're the ones doing the smoking. I mean, it's just you're going to see teams play it differently now that they know what's at stake. Because remember, early on, people got mad. I can't remember what team it was. They got mad at Embiid for taking a late 3 or something like that. And he was like, hey, points matter. And that was the first week of it. And no one really understood what he was doing, but some guys did. So now I think that with a little schooling now, they know come next season, you better be in these, stay close in these games so you end up in these situations. But I like the strategy in that. I like the gamesmanship in it. And like you said, Billy Donovan, like everybody else, knew the Celtics were trying to put 30 on them. It's up to your starters, Vucevic and DeRozan and Levine, to keep the game close, and you wouldn't be in that situation. Nobody told you to yank your starters in the fourth quarter. You did that. And when they started getting smoked, you had to deal with it. So that's on you, and you got to live with that decision.
I know the Celtics have another game before this, but how are you feeling about them in Indy? Are you feeling like, is this thing going to get to Vegas?
I think so. I think they would. They were up 50 on them last time they played Indiana. I mean, Indiana could be looking for a little get back, but I think the Celtics, the matchup against the Pacers, I think is just too much for them. Pacers like to score and get up and down, but I think the Celtics' size and their ability just to score at will on that team will be too much now, and especially now that they know Vegas is right behind them. everybody on that team wants to get to Vegas for that game. So I can see the Celtics treating it like it's Game 7. So I don't see Indiana beating them in that game.
Yeah, I think Halliburton has expressed the desire to really. He's never won anything. He wants to win this. Eager to see if that plays out. Got another big game before that. We got to get through Philly, so let's see how that all goes. Cerrone, this was good. For those who didn't see it, my internet dropped like 74 times, and he battled through it, keeping up with his last name. I really appreciate your time. Let's do this again soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, good stuff. I know it's I was gonna say we're very bullish on the Celtics after they beat the Bulls last night, but I will save that pun. The Celtics have the Sixers on Friday night. We'll be back with post-game pod after that. We get a whole bunch of IST action next week, but we want to leave you with, we just didn't get enough Slam Hauser into the podcast this episode. So to give you just a little bit more, Abby got a chance to sit down with Sam before that Bulls game, talk about the dunks, talk about the defense, talk about all the Sam Hauser things, and maybe some three-pointer talk in there as well. So here's their chat. But after that, like, subscribe. We'll catch you next time on the Celtics Talk podcast.
All right, Sam, I want to start this conversation talking about the thing that you are known for. When people think Sam Hauser, they think of you, and that is dunks.
Yeah, I figured you would say that.
Obviously. The alley-oop from Jaylen Brown. After the game, he said there was like a mind melt when you guys were running down the floor. He looked at you, you looked at him, and you told him to throw it up. Did you feel that way?
No. Well, I mean, we did lock eyes.
Yeah.
And I didn't think that meant he was going to throw an alley-oop, but he did. And I executed that. So thanks, JB. Maybe we can do it again sometime.
Obviously, he knows that's part of your game, right?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you just got to save stuff for the game. And that was one of those things that, just pull it out when the game time comes. And,
that's not something you guys work on every day?
Never.
No?
So pretty impromptu.
What do you think of Luke's celebrations? Because he lost his mind with that. I mean, we've seen him absolutely lose his mind on that bench time after time.
I didn't see it until, after the game. Someone sent me the clip of it, and I think it was my mom, actually. She just said, "What is Luke doing?" And, I don't know what he was doing either, but it was awesome. He brought the energy with that one, and hopefully a play like that happens again so I can see that celebration again.
The other thing that you're known for, your bread and butter, when I think of Sam Hauser, I think of defense. Do you feel like
hitting all the high notes?
Do you feel like the word is out about you and defense? Are you getting targeted less this season?
I mean, honestly, probably not, to be quite honest with you. I think it's probably about the same. I don't know. The numbers may say differently, but, I'm just trying to do my part on that end. And if that means they're going to keep, targeting me, and, I think that's a good thing for our team. So just going to stay confident and keep doing what I do.
Okay, and finally, shooting from distance. Was there a moment, or can you pinpoint something that kind of broke you out of your early season slump?
I mean,
did it even feel like a slump?
I mean, no, I felt like I maybe had one or two bad games, which I don't consider that a slump. But honestly, it's just it's a new team. We got some new faces, and just kind of have to get used to playing with guys a little bit before things start to kind of click, and you kind of know what spots to be in when the ball is, when to be expected to get a pass and things like that. So, but yeah, overall, just being confident in myself and knowing that, it's something I do really well. And even if I do have a game or two that's off, that I know keep shooting like the next one's going in.
Where is that comfort and confidence level right now with this group?
It's good. I mean, we've been playing pretty well. I think guys are, we've had guys in and out of the lineups, which has provided, some more opportunities for guys like Peyton and I and Luke too. So I think just trying to take advantage of those moments to get better and show your worth.
Sam, thank you.
No problem. Thanks for having me.